Good.
Well, hey, everybody. Thanks for coming to the webinar. It's going to be just a few minutes before we get started, but you came to the right place. And if you can hear me, it's working. So just hang loose. And we'll get started here in just a few minutes. And I will apologize ahead of time. I have a mechanical keyboard, so if you hear me typing very loudly during the webinar, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. And you'll see a question and answer function. As we go through, if you have any questions, you can type those into the box, and we'll do our best to answer those. If we don't answer them during the presentation at large, we'll have a question and answer portion at the end, and we'll do our best to answer them. You'll notice as you go into that question and answer box, there's an option where you can either send your information and your question to the entire group at large, which will include your personal information, or you can send them only to us, the presenters. So that's your choice. And it's 9 o'clock now. We'll give it a few minutes for those of us that are chronically late, like myself generally, to join us. We're super happy that you're going to fight with us to stop Trump Care. We're very excited about this coalition that's joining together. Just couldn't be any cooler, any more exciting to see such a large-scale direct action happening at this time on this issue. It's just great. I'm being told that my typing is coming through loud and clear. Amanda Krull says hi, and that my typing is super annoying. So I will try to keep that to a minimum. I really don't need to be typing. I'm here to connect with y'all and talk about the good work that we have ahead of us. So we're going to start in a couple of minutes once everyone is here. But until then, let's get to know each other a little bit. I'm going to be your host today. My name's David, and I'm calling in from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I volunteer for Our Revolution. I'm excited about this mobilization because I've got friends that would have extraordinarily low quality of life were it not for Medicare and Medicaid. And to see that our government wants to rip these services, rip these critical services away from people in my community, people in all of our communities, is just horrifying. But that's enough about me. I've also got a co-presenter, a tag teamer, a supporter. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much, David. My name's Jasper. I'm calling in from right outside Chicago, Illinois. And I'm also an Our Revolution volunteer. I'm super excited to be a part of this movement, be a part of this action, because I know that such a large show of force and showing what our priorities are from all around the country is really going to show a huge message to those who think that they can get away with cutting the essential services that this country provides.
That's great. Funnily enough, Jasper and I met, about 15 and a half months ago on a presidential campaign presenting webinars on phone banking on the Bernie campaign. And gosh, that was a lot of fun. So we're really excited to be presenting webinars again. Jasper, do we have anybody sharing in the chat why they're excited about the movement that we want to share?
Not yet, but if anyone would like to pop on down to that chat and let us know why they're here, why they're excited, why they're planning on sitting in even, we would love to talk about it. Oh, well, we've got our first one right here. And I think I would just won't read these names by default because I'm not sure if everyone wants to have their name read among our very, very, very large audience, millions of people. But our first one is, because healthcare is a human right, is why this person is here. And I 100% agree with that.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
It's terrible that we need to be talking about this stuff instead of talking about Medicare for all. That's where the conversation ought to be right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple more. One person says that they're excited to be involved and they are 62 years old, which is amazing. It's a big movement, people of all shapes and sizes and types and ages. I'm on the lower end of the age spectrum, but it's cool too. An old leftover hippie, she says. Oh boy, it's wonderful to have you on board. And we have one other friend who says, I'm excited because it's time to stand up by sitting down.
Heck
that is true. I'll snap for that.
I will too. All right, well, let's get rolling. So what are we going to cover? We're going to talk about getting connected. We're going to talk about nonviolent discipline, the who, the what, the why, the how. We'll talk about different roles in this action. We'll hit on mobilizing 101, our action scenario, how to execute it, some contingencies we might run into, some legal information, and we'll talk about your questions as they come along. So getting connected. We'll have some remote staff and volunteers in solidly blue states that will provide support for those of us who are holding these sit-ins for healthcare. The participating organizations will provide training and communication through webinars and Slack. And to get connected with your local team, it's important to get on Slack as soon as you can. If you're not familiar with Slack, it's an easy-to-use messaging platform that helps you connect with both organizers and fellow grassroots activists in your area who are ready to collaborate and take action. So in the Ohio channel right now, we're getting it going. We're organizing a meeting on this Sunday to plan our action here in Cincinnati. It's very exciting. So please join us on Slack at bit.do/StopTrumpCareSlack, bit.do/StopTrumpCareSlack. And if you're already a member, that's the link to get there. You can use this on your desktop. There's an app, or on your smartphone, what have you, tablet, whatnot. And this is our primary tool for communication and organizing, but you also need to connect with people in person. And once you get there in Slack, it's important for you to introduce yourself once you're there with us. And just a quick word on nonviolent discipline. It is absolutely critical that you maintain nonviolent discipline at all times during this process. That means no use of violence or threat of violence by word or by action toward anyone that you encounter. Nonviolent discipline is what gives our movement the moral high ground, and therefore what makes our actions compelling to the public, making them want to get involved and be a part of the struggle. This is our theory of change. When we break this discipline, we fundamentally undermine our movement and our mission. So, who's organizing this? We've got an incredible coalition put together to stop Trump Care. We are All of Us, Democracy Spring, Democratic Socialists of America, Our Revolution, the People's Consortium, Progressive Democrats of America, and Ultraviolet. We're working together to organize, coordinate, and support sit-ins at Senate offices across the country on Thursday, July 6th. We'll target as many Republican senators as possible with a common demand that they vote no on the Better Care Reconciliation Act. That's the Senate's version of this horrible health care bill. So what are we doing here? What is this mobilization? We're mobilizing to stop the GOP health care bill in its tracks. There will be sit-ins, direct action, nonviolent direct action at Senate offices across the country, demanding that our Republican senators vote no on this upcoming bill. This coming week, our congresspeople and senators will be in their home states for the 4th of July week recess. We're going to let them know that voting for the Trump care bill will hurt their constituents and that we won't stand for it. On Thursday, July 6th, we'll be in their offices, letting them know. Last week, ADAPT made the bold move of staging nonviolent sit-ins targeting Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. We were super inspired by this. It's a very courageous act, and we believe that now is the time for greater nonviolent direct action. These sit-ins will spotlight the impact and unpopularity of the healthcare bill to the media, and it will pressure Republican senators to vote no on it. So why? Why are we doing this? The so-called Better Care Reconciliation Act introduced in the Senate would take healthcare away from 22 million working, poor, and disabled Americans. It would gut Medicaid by almost $800 billion. And it would provide a massive tax cut for the wealthiest 2% of the population. The passage of this bill means that thousands of middle class and poor people will die so the rich can get richer. I'm not cool with that. We believe that if ordinary people rise up and demonstrate that this bill is morally unacceptable, that if we put our own bodies and liberties on the line to show our neighbors that human lives are at stake, we have a real shot at stopping this bill from becoming law. Jasper, you want to tag in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, David, like you said, this is one of the most profound things that we can do to show resistance to the Trump agenda and to the agenda of congressional Republicans now. I mean, there are lots of different ways that they're ramming through different things through Congress and through the executive branch that are destroying the fabric of this country, but sitting in and directly impacting the senators and their staff's lives and showing the entire country a unified voice about stopping the Better Care Reconciliation Act, or whatever they're calling Trump Care recently, is going to have a huge effect on the narrative around healthcare in this country.
Awesome. So how are we going to do this? Planning a sit-in, it's really very simple. All you need to do is connect with your team in person and on Slack, agree on action roles, go over the action scenarios, and then execute. So mobilizing 101. Anyone can be an organizer. You can be an organizer. All it takes to mobilize others is conviction in the greater good and the dedication to follow through. Start small and build up from there. If you can get your whole community to come, great. If you can get 2 friends to come, that's great too. We got to start somewhere. But the more the merrier. Here are some simple suggestions. An easy first step is to write down the names of 30 people you know who you think would be interested in showing up. It can be your family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, members of clubs or congregations. You can use Facebook, email, or phone calls to recruit people, but time is of the essence, right? It's June 30th. We're talking about July 6th, next Thursday. We got to get rolling. After you reach out to your friends and family, think about prominent leaders in your community and gatekeepers like faith leaders, people who are politically active, and organizers of clubs or groups. Are there any community groups that are also active on this or similar issues that you might want to get involved? Get your messaging down and prepare your pitch. Create talking points to help keep your message focused, clear, and concise. The right is killing us on messaging. Their messaging is clear and concise. It's simple. We over-intellectualize things. We talk too much like I'm doing right now. We need to work on that. Follow up on the logistics. Call people who have signed on to volunteer. Are they clear about where the event is? How are they getting there? We don't really want them to drive to the Senate office and leave their car there if they're risking arrest and then their car is abandoned. Can we coordinate transport for larger groups? Finally, get the word out. Put flyers up around town, share the event on your social media channels, promote, promote, promote. So once you've got your group together, you need to agree on action rules. The most critical distinction your team needs to make is who will be risking arrest and who will not be risking arrest. You need at least one person to not risk arrest so that they can act as jail support for those who do. And we know that this is a big deal. This is scary. You know, we're talking about risking arrest. Myself personally, I've never risked arrest before. But I suspect that I'm going to on Thursday. I don't know how things are going to shake out yet. I don't know what my community's need is going to be from me yet. But I'm ready to risk arrest. I want to risk arrest. I hope to risk arrest. So roles, we've got the action leader. This is the person who's responsible for the action's overall program and live execution. They'll be initiating the beginning of the action, organizing the physical arrangement of the action. They'll give spokespeople and chant leaders their cues for starting their statements in chants, and they'll make any real-time, on-the-ground tactical decisions, for example, relocating to another part of the office or locking arms with each other. You'll need to have a jail support person. This person will not risk arrest. They'll be in charge of recording everyone's personal information, liaising with police and legal support following the action, and coordinating the meeting and pickup of team members once they're released from custody. You'll need to have a police liaison. This person will need to risk arrest. They're in charge of interacting with the police during the action and representing the team to any police or security personnel. They should take initiative to talk to police personnel once they show up, and other team members should refrain from doing so. So we've got one point of contact. The police liaison should approach any and all conversations with police calmly, confidently, and respectfully. We'll want to have some chant leaders. These are going to be our people responsible for starting and leading chants and songs. They should prepare and practice these ahead of time and share the words and lyrics and, if possible, audio recordings with their team members ahead of time. We want to have our game on point. We want to be ready. And we'll want to have spokespeople. These are going to be folks who will read or recite an official statement on behalf of the team, where we'll be presenting our demand that they vote no on this disgusting bill, and explaining why they're taking action. Statements should be short and to the point, so they're easy to remember and recite. In a stressful situation, 1 to 2 minutes is recommended. People should typically make some connection about why they're personally called to action. This is pretty easy for us to do, right? Healthcare is a big deal. We can all think of a personal connection. They should come to the action with the statement typed up on their phone so they have it with them as a resource. And spokespeople should be willing to risk arrest. We're going to need to have a live streamer. They'll record the action as it takes place on Facebook Live, allowing others to tune in and watch the action live or after the fact. And there are more details on each of these roles in your Stop Trump Care Mobilization Toolkit. This is a living document, but it's in pretty tight shape right now. Please review it closely to be sure you understand what each person in each role should be doing. And you can find that at is.gd/StopTrumpCareKit. And don't worry if you're not able to take note of all these links right now. We will provide you with probably a PDF of the PowerPoint or something like that, something with all the slides and at least the links very soon, probably by email. I'm not sure. And when you meet with your group, you're going to need to meet up. If possible, you're going to want to meet up beforehand. Like I said, I'm meeting up with folks on Sunday. But the day of the action, you're going to want to meet up at least an hour ahead of time. outside the building where your senator's office is located. Ideally, you should all meet several hours ahead of time at a nearby sufficiently distant location, like a park, where you can get to know each other, make sure that everyone knows and understands their roles, and practice the basic scenario. Spokespeople should read through their statements again and make sure that they're ready for that. And then it'll be time to execute. It's go time. So once you're ready, at the guidance of your action leader, you'll want to calmly and deliberately walk into your senator's office as a group and ask to speak with the senator. If they refuse you, then you sit down on the floor while the spokespeople opposite from the live streamer. You can walk in silently or while singing and chanting. Shortly after sitting in, your lead spokesperson should read or recite their statement. A chant leader should have a song or chant prepared to immediately follow the statement. Statements and songs or chants can then alternate until all your spokespeople have spoken or the police move in to arrest you. When police or security arrive, the police liaison should take initiative and introduce themselves, explaining why you're here and that you are all 100% peaceful and nonviolent. When the police give an official warning, anyone who's unwilling to risk arrest should leave the area immediately. If you're risking arrest and willing to commit civil disobedience, just hang out, remain seated. That's when it starts to get real, you know? So do not make physical contact proactively with any police officer. Any unwanted touching, any sort, can be and sometimes is legally construed as assault on an officer. This is not a charge that you want. Once you're placed under arrest, you should fully cooperate with all law enforcement directives and commands. Just straight up, just cooperate. One or more jail support volunteers will then track your progress while you're in custody and arrange to meet you once you're released. So, we all know that the best laid plans sometimes run into the real world. So we'll talk about some contingencies. So contingency scenario A, your access to the office is blocked. This is something that I'm likely to run into in Cincinnati, right? I know we've got some Cincinnati people on the webinar. What are we going to do about this? I don't know. If you're blocked from entering your senator's office, get as far as you can into the building and hold your sit-in there. For example, this could be in the hallway outside the office or the opening lobby, or maybe right there by the elevators, Barb. I don't know. Try to position yourself in a way that disrupts the flow of foot traffic, and do not choose an obscure or out-of-the-way location within the building. If you're barred altogether from entering the building, arrange your sit-in as a blockade of the front entrance to the building. Hold your blockade for at least several hours to see if it provokes arrest. Stay as long as you can. The likelihood that they will arrest you may decrease if you don't gain access to the building. Contingency scenario B. Nobody's trying to arrest you. So what do you do if the police don't come to arrest anyone in your group? You're in your senator's office or another space within the building, but the police don't show up to arrest you. So you should be prepared to occupy the space indefinitely, including overnight. Office occupations create a very powerful narrative in the media and in social media about our commitment and our sacrifice and the unwillingness of the target to be responsive to our demand. While most of these end within 24 hours, some may stretch on for multiple days. So conserve your cell phone battery so that you can live stream and take photos of the arrests when they do occur. So, legal information, do's and don'ts. For those resisting arrest, for those risking arrest, here's some important information to keep in mind. Cooperate with all police orders and directives. Do not resist arrest. You don't want that charge. Do not touch a police officer who did not initiate contact. You don't want that charge. Anything considered unwanting touching, as we did discuss before, could technically be considered assault on an officer. Again, we need to maintain the moral high ground. We need to make sure that we are 100% nonviolent at all times. Have your official state or government ID on your person during the action. Don't bring any purses, backpacks, or valuables to the action with you. Wear layers. Jail can be very hot or very cold, and you may not be allowed to bring in jackets, coats, or other bulky items. Do prepare to be in jail overnight. If you have medications that you'll need to take while you're in custody, they may send you to the hospital to have those medications administered. This is likely to delay your release, so just keep that in mind. And if you have pending immigration charges or are undocumented, please let us know before you risk arrest by emailing info@ourrevolution.com. info@ourrevolution.com. So some additional legal information. We want to provide you with the basic legal understanding that you'll need to be supported to risk arrest and commit civil disobedience. However, we are not lawyers, and none of the following should be considered legal advice or a replacement for legal advice. The National Lawyers Guild, or NLG, is the leading resource around the country for legal support. They've got years of experience, they've got chapters in every region, and an extensive database of pro bono attorneys. They offer legal observers for actions of this sort in many areas, and legal support hotlines if you're planning an action with a high risk of arrest. You can learn more at nlg.org/Mass Defense Committee. That's Mass, M-A-S-S, Defense, D-E-F-E-N-S-E, Committee. They have an entire committee that's dedicated to folks who get arrested at actions. It's awesome. And they've got hotlines. They've got folks who live and breathe this stuff. It's incredible. Your local state ACLU chapter may also offer legal observers and or legal support hotlines. You will find local attorneys with experience in these matters who are willing to assist those who are arrested for free. That may not happen until folks are arrested, but they'll show up. Tap into local activists or Occupy networks if you can, but it's important to try to start making these connections today. These are people that we want to know. So start reaching out. More legal information. Hooray! So this really isn't legal information. This is more about culture, about how we think about our organizing. So it's important to consider disparity of risk among our participants when we're planning our action. So like me, I'm an almost 40-year-old white dude. I'm a lawyer. My risk level, super low, right? Other people are going to have a different experience than I'm going to have. Race, gender, age, ability, income, whether you have kids or other dependents, all of this is going to affect your level of risk. And these are things that we need to be thinking about during the entire planning process of our action. Some people may have special circumstances that could have legal consequences. Let's say they're undocumented, or they have a felony or outstanding warrant. So these folks who have a higher risk of elevated consequences, we want them with us. If they want to be there with us, they can and should be allowed to participate in civil disobedience actions if they have a full understanding of their own risks. There is incredible movement building value in supporting each other to be brave and take risks. So we encourage you not to exclude people. If they want to participate, don't be prescriptive about participation and risk based on collapsed or simple identity. Don't reduce people to, oh, well, you're undocumented, so, I mean, you really shouldn't, participate in this. We need to, be intersectional in all things, and this is complicated stuff, and if people want to be there with us, we want them with us. They are our people. And, think about when the most vulnerable step up to risk a lot, it can lead to the most powerful breakthroughs. Think of undocumented dreamers who sat in risking deportation and won DACA. I mean, that was a big deal. And something I meant to say in the why section is, why do we do this stuff? It's because direct action gets the goods. Direct action gets the goods. It takes real support to enable higher risk people to take action. People need to make individual and informed choices if they are higher risk. And this is something we'll be dealing with in our local action. And it's awesome. I love it. A culture that supports us all to move forward toward greater risk over time, or as we feel supported to do so together, will help us be as powerful as possible. So when you're planning your action, remember to consider what's at risk for you, what's at stake for you. Then consider what's at risk for the others you're planning with, what's at stake for your brother or sister next to you, what's needed in your group for everyone to feel supported as we're taking this risk together as a community. Being arrested for nonviolent civil disobedience is typically a minor offense, such as an infraction or a misdemeanor. In some cases, no charges are ever filed. In other cases, charges are filed, but then dropped after an arraignment. That's where you appear before the judge, and the judge is kind of like, what are you doing here? Get out of here. In our experience, only a very tiny fraction of nonviolent actions have ever resulted in charges sticking and the defendant being convicted. But every legal situation is different, and legal proceedings and consequences may significantly vary across different cities and states. The best thing you can do to get specific information about your particular situation is to contact your NLG chapter or other available local resources right away. And get in the Slack and talk to us. We can help point you in the right direction. You can talk to other people in your state and your area. Tap into that activist Occupy network. Find out. Those who risk arrest may incur minor fees, generally $100 or less, if they are arrested. And local organizing groups should work together to ensure that such potential costs are not a barrier to anyone's participation. The National Coalition cannot take responsibility to cover those costs. However, if any action participants who maintain nonviolent discipline, as agreed upon, face extraordinary repression or retaliation and substantial associated expenses, we will do our best to assist in fundraising to provide necessary support. The cat is super mad that she can't get in here. So here we go. Questions. Jasper, what do we got?
We've got a couple, and I'm not actually sure if the answers we've been sending out are available to all the attendees or not. I think they're not, but in case I'm right about that, I'll read out what we've got so far. One attendee asks, it's not recommended that we call the senator's office to schedule a visit beforehand. And that's correct. Just head in and ask for a meeting. There is definitely no reason you would need to call the senator beforehand.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to disagree with you on that, Jasper. I mean, for my senator in particular, if we called and scheduled a visit ahead of time, we might actually get into his office.
Really?
Yeah. Whereas if we just showed up, we're not getting in. I mean, so Barb, do you agree with that? Can you pop into the Q&A and let me know what you think if you have a chance? So I don't know. I mean, I think it's worth scoping out. It's worth making a call, if not to the senator's office, to other people in your community who have the scoop on visiting the senator's office.
Okay. Well, thank you for the fact check on that.
I mean, I think it's different everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. We got one question asking if we could give you get your hands on the slides that you just saw. We're trying to push out a follow-up email to this. This is our first webinar, so we're going through the infrastructure to see how we can get you guys an email or multiple pieces of information after this webinar is done. But these slides are heavily derived from the mobilization toolkit, and we gave you that link. It's in the chat. Once again, it's is.gd/StopTrumpCareKit. So almost anything you hear in this webinar or see in the slides will be there. We had one person ask, what about bail? The answer is, as David just said, for the most part, you are responsible for your own fees incurred as a result of nonviolent disobedience, although your group can work together to make sure that's not a barrier to anyone.
But again, if somebody runs into something that's really retaliatory and egregious, the coalition is going to try to make something happen for you. I mean, we're going to try to help fundraise. We're going to try to do something. No guarantees, but
yeah. By the way, I just got a second opinion on the calling ahead hearing. There is a diversity of opinion on what makes the most sense strategically. We don't have a solidified coalition answer on whether calling first makes sense. So that may be something you want to talk about with your team and decide if that's a strategy you guys want to pursue. We're getting a bunch of questions rolling into the Q&A feature right now, which is super wonderful.
That's great.
I'm not going to type answers to those, but we will talk about them right here. Should you bring food and water in case you're in the office for an extended period of time is one question. I think the answer is absolutely yes. I see no reason why that wouldn't be the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Let's see. I presume that someone who crosses the U.S.-Canada border frequently should not risk arrest. And that's definitely a decision you should make for yourself, as we've said. If immigration is a concern for you, or if trouble with the law for any reason would be a concern for you, then you're going to have to weigh the stakes and make an intelligent decision, I think, on whether you're going to risk arrest. You can always go and then leave when the police start to give warnings. We're getting some different opinions on calling ahead. Okay, here's a good question. Is our goal to get in and talk to the senators or to protest and get noticed? David, what do you think about that?
I think if we can get in and talk with the senator, that's great. But I think we should I think both. You know, I think if we can get in and talk with them, we should make our statement and then sit in. We should have our spokespeople read our statement and then sit in.
For sure. We have one person ask, how do we participate in the action without risking arrest? Is it safe to bring my disabled child with me? And we did cover that to answer that question in the sense that you can absolutely participate in the action without risking arrest, just as you say. The police will give warnings before they arrest you. They don't want to make a huge scene. They don't want to come in and immediately handcuff everyone. They want everyone to get out of the way so there's not a huge spectacle. So the answer is it will be pretty clear when you should leave the area, book it, get out of there before the police start arresting people. I think on the question of if it's safe to bring your disabled child with you, I think that is an admirable thing to want to do. I would say that excessive violence in a senator's office, especially if you leave before arrests happen, is not something I would expect to happen. So
yeah,
like that would be a decision you have to make for yourself, but you're not heading into Standing Rock or anything.
Yeah, I think you'd be absolutely safe.
Yeah. We have the question, do we have a time set nationally or do we all do it individually through cities. These actions are all happening on the same day, Thursday, July 6th, I should say. I'm not sure if there's a specific time.
There's not a time set nationally. I know that I've seen some conversations in the Slack, which you should all join immediately, and join your state Slack and have these conversations. If you're planning to be an action leader, there's an action leader channel to discuss these things. Some people, I think, are going to do it early so that they can ensure that their action is covered on the early evening news. I think some people are going to do it like before noon. Some people are going to do it around 4 o'clock. But yeah, there's no nationally set time. This is super grassroots. I mean, we're gonna try to help facilitate organization, but we're really looking to you to be organizers and to step up and make this happen in a way that I don't think has probably ever happened before. This is a big deal. And I also see the question, does upper management of our revolution approve of this initiative? And absolutely yes is the answer to that. Direct action is something that has been discussed since our revolution began, and we're super excited to be joining with this coalition of other great organizations to put this action together. Now, I'm just a volunteer, so that's not an official answer, but obviously you see that our revolution is part of this coalition and making this happen. So.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We have the question, is there a DC team? And it's a mixed answer. The first answer is, will there be an action in Senate offices in DC? And I'm related to this particular action, I think the answer is no, because senators are on recess. So you can't actually ask to talk to anyone in DC when no one's there. Ostensibly, but if you come into the Slack, I think there's a sizable crowd of DC and DC area people, and if you want to connect with people around this issue and organizing around this action, I am sure that the Slack would be a great place. And we keep pushing the Slack. We're going to push the link up one more time in just a couple seconds. We have the question, what are the charges they can charge you with? Can they charge you with a felony? We've got a lawyer.
Okay, so this is not legal advice, and you should check with a lawyer who's licensed to practice in your state. I am not your lawyer. I mean, the cops are the cops, right? They do whatever the hell they want, So, I mean, there are situations where, that could happen, but it's extremely unlikely in situations like this. The majority of situations like this result in a citation, which is like a ticket, or somebody charged with a misdemeanor. The only situation I can think of where you would be charged with a felony related to this action would be if you broke nonviolent discipline, if you became violent. So, I mean, if you follow the plan, if you maintain nonviolent discipline, you should be cool. Everything should be fine.
For sure.
I see several questions about should we go to our senator's local office when we know he's not going to be there? And gosh, I mean, I think all of us know that our senators are not in their offices. And absolutely, we should still go to those offices. Our theory of change here is that if we draw attention to the fact that we have a simple demand here, we want these senators to vote no on this horrifying bill, which, I mean, it took forever for us to even find out what the bill was about, what would happen if the bill were passed. We just want them to vote no. We know they're not going to be there. We're going there to make symbolic actions in solidarity with each other and to show our neighbors, our friends, that we care about them and their lives, and we're willing to put our bodies and liberties on the line to show that they matter. So absolutely, yes. I also see a question about the offices of Democratic senators. This is a really a grassroots question. This is a question for you to decide at the local level. I've seen that some people are planning some actions in solidarity. We've got a lot of states that are solidly blue. I know that there are folks in California that are planning to do sort of Bernie Journey style road trips into Nevada, because Nevada needs help. Nevada's got problems. In California, pretty solidly blue. So, so that's something that could be done. But yes, I mean, I've seen several folks that are talking about holding similar actions in solidarity in Democratic senators' offices. And if folks are concerned about, shady actions by the cops, keep in mind that we're going to be live streaming. We may be able to get legal observers from NLG or the ACLU, and these are folks that are trained to closely observe the action, to closely observe what the police are doing, and write down everything that's happening, also to record what's happening, to take photos, these kinds of things. Honestly, with this kind of situation, there's already been press on it. The police are going to know what's happening when they deploy, and they're going to know how to handle it. And I don't expect any problems. This is going to be a straightforward, simple thing. It's going to be easy for them to do their job in a professional way. And as long as we maintain nonviolent discipline and our police liaison is professional and calm when the police arrive and explains that we're 100% nonviolent, then everything's going to be cool. There's no problem with being in a federal office. There's no issue there. Press releases, I don't have an answer for that yet. Someone asks if National is sending out press releases. We are starting to do some social media stuff. I expect that the answer to that is probably yes. But again, I mean, I think grassroots style stuff is powerful. I spoke with somebody earlier today who's planning to send a letter to the editor of their local paper. It's like, cool, that's real power. Somebody asked, what if the senator just closes the office in anticipation of the sit-in? I think that's a situation where we'd look at contingency number 2, and we would no, it's contingency number 1. We would probably arrange our sit-in as a blockade of the front entrance of the building. So like my senator's office is on the 3rd floor of a very large office building, and I could see a lot of senators closing their office, and we're just going to have to run with it. Organizing is just it's just putting out a giant garbage fire. It's just going with the flow. That's all we can do. And that is also a victory. They shut down their offices out of fear of being confronted by their constituents. It's a strong signal that they know that they're on the wrong side of history. So, what are our next steps? We've got to get in that Slack. We've got to start organizing with each other. We've got to start coordinating with others in our states and figuring everything out. So we go to bit.do/StopTrumpCareSlack. bit.do/StopTrumpCareSlack. If you're in there, you've got everything else you need. You've got access to all the resources, the people that you need, and everything's going to be cool. We will get it done. We will sit in to stop Trump Care. We will build movement together. We will build community. And it's going to be great. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate your time and can't wait to do this with you. Thank you.